In the NFL, there's definitely no shortage of rivalries. Well, when it comes to Amon-Ra St. Brown, he just threw down the gauntlet about who he would like to play for the opening game of the NFL season in 2025. We're going to talk about it, so stay tuned.
What are we? What makes us what we are and what we're going to be? It's grit. It's what we started with last year, guys. Doesn't matter if you have one ass cheek and 3 toes. I will beat your ass.
Can definitely compete with the big dogs.
10-5 end zone touchdown Detroit Lions.
You guys are unbelievable, man. I'm telling you.
We are driven by Detroit.
Hello, Detroit Lions friends, fans, and family members. Welcome on back to yet another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. I'm your host, David T. Pike, and as always, we're diving on in. My friends, I'm going to tell you something right now. It's kind of nice when we get a chance to kind of take a break away from talking about the draft and, trade rumors, this, that, and the other thing. And we can actually talk about something that's actually, real. Actually talk about something that actually has happened. And for me, that's what I feel like I'm going to be able to do today because, how do I put this? When it comes to certain Lions players, obviously we know certain Lions players have very flamboyant personalities. They like to talk. They like to, get themselves a little bit riled up. They like to talk a little bit. And one of those guys is obviously Amon-Ra St. Brown. Obviously, he has a podcast that he does with his brother. They have sometimes Lions players and other players that come on the show. They talk all the time. It's a fun show. However, though, now that the 2024 season is officially done and over with, everybody's already naturally looking towards next year. There's never such a thing as being stagnant in the NFL. You're always looking towards the next thing. Well, as we know, obviously, the team that wins the Super Bowl, they open the season the next year with the opening game. So that naturally means that the Eagles are going to open the game with the very first Thursday night game at their home place. Now, Amon-Ra St. Brown, being a very observant, very smart individual, noticed that of the away teams that the Eagles are going to play, one of those teams is the Lions. Now, why am I talking about this? Because Amon-Ra St. Brown on his show kind of got into it a little bit with his brothers, and they're going back and forth, and they're talking and all this nonsense. And in essence, what Amon-Ra St. Brown did is he threw out a challenge to the Eagles. Now, some people could say it could be a number of things, but let's just get down to the real nitty-gritty here. He threw out a challenge to the Eagles. There's just no two ways around that. And you can definitely understand that challenge when you take a look at one particular statement that was made by Amon-Ra. This was the statement. Amon-Ra said this on his podcast with his brothers. He said, "You would see what could have happened in an NFC championship with a healthy defense, how that shit operates." Now, pardon my language. Again, I don't typically use that kind of language when I'm on my pre-recorded shows. But again, I'm quoting what Amon-Ra said. Here's the thing. Amon-Ra St. Brown is in essence gunning, he is in essence vying, he's in essence putting his hat in the ring to say, listen, the Lions want to play the Super Bowl defending champs to open the 2025 season. Now, let's understand something here. This would not exactly be uncharted territory for the Lions because in 2023, the Lions did the exact same thing. They went to Arrowhead. They played the Kansas City Chiefs in their home stadium. They beat the Kansas City Chiefs in their home stadium. Now, so on that front, the Lions would have at least some semblance of experience to say, hey, we have done this before. However, though, we also have to be fair to the other side of this argument. The Lions have not gone to Philadelphia in quite a long time. In fact, I'm actually kind of drawing a blank here on as far as when was the last time we actually went to Philadelphia and played them. The last time I can think of it was when we were out there playing, and it was that big Snow Bowl game where, freaking Megatron got tackled and he came up and his whole helmet was like kind of encased in snow. And it's like, that right there is kind of like how long it is since we've actually gone and played Philadelphia in Philadelphia. Because if I think about it, the last 2 times we've played Philadelphia, we were at home. So that would be definitely an interesting dynamic because, well, let's understand something here. Philadelphia is not exactly the most hospitable place to, visitors. They're not very hospitable. Even though they're the city of brotherly love, let's call it for what it is. They're not exactly hospitable to visiting teams. Now, I will say this, though. I think, though, the NFL realizes what kind of an opportunity it would have here. Because, let's just call it for what it is. The Lions, without a shadow of a doubt, you can say what you want, but the Lions were considered the Super Bowl favorites all last year. And I'm talking about 2024. We were considered the team that was most likely to get to a Super Bowl. Because we had the best record in football. We had the best offense in football. The only thing that screwed us up in the end was an injury bug that absolutely decimated our defense. That's part of the reason why Amon-Ra St. Brown said what he said about, hey, see what happens when you have an actual healthy defense. Because let's call it for what it is. Aiden Hutchinson's going to be fully healthy. All the guys who had been dealing with injury are going to be fully healthy, such as if we get Carlton Davis back, Malcolm Rodriguez, and all the rest of them. So for me, it's like, okay, to a certain extent, yeah, that would definitely be an interesting dynamic to see because now you would be able to see the 2 best teams, not only in the NFC, but likely in the NFL, going head-to-head fully healthy. Provided, of course, nothing happens in preseason training camp, so on and so forth. But I'm just being in hypotheticals here. You have that happen, then now you can say, okay, if we had these 2 teams go up in a head-to-head matchup, what would it look like? Because obviously everyone can talk about hypotheticals about, what would have happened had the Lions actually got into the championship game, played the Eagles, what would have happened there? Obviously, we're never going to know for 100% because obviously it never happened. But the best thing you could do is say, okay, opening game of the season, you've got the Lions, you got the Eagles. Lions are going to go to the Eagles, which would have been opposite of what would have happened in the NFC Championship game because had the Lions gotten that far, the Eagles would have had to have come and played the Lions at Ford Field, not going to the Eagles' home stadium. So, for me, I think the NFL realizes just how much of what's the word I'd like to use here? An incentive it would be for the NFL to actually put that game front and center. Because it's like, listen, when you gave the Lions the front and center game 2 years ago in 2023, they delivered. They gave you a good game. They gave you a very highly entertaining game. Now, the Lions are better. They've got much more national recognition. They've got much more national coverage. They're considered one of the best teams in the NFL. They have the second best betting odds to get to the Super Bowl for the 2025 season. You now pair that team with the NFC defending Super Bowl champions, the Eagles. You put that for the very first game of the year. Dude, you're going to have yourself a massive, massive audience wanting to watch that game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But for me, trying to get away from that and go back to Amon-Ra St. Brown for a minute. This is what I would expect from Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm not saying that because he wants to act like a tough guy or be some kind of way that he isn't. This is Amon-Ra St. Brown. Amon-Ra St. Brown has always been of the mindset, listen, if there is an opportunity for me to get better, for this team to get better, I'm going to take it. And you have to think about it. What is the best possible way to show that you as a team are better to start out of a season? You beat the Super Bowl defending champions. And what do? You go to their home stadium and you beat them. Now, I'm not saying that's what's going to happen, but I'm simply saying that for Amon-Ra St. Brown, there's no better way to define yourself, to prove yourself, to give that message out to the NFL that, listen, we're ready to rock and roll by going into the opposing team's stadium, beat the Super Bowl defending champions. That's exactly what Amon-Ra St. Brown is doing. He's not throwing down a gauntlet just because he wants to talk tough and act tough. He's like saying, listen, we want this. We want to show that, hey, if not for the fact that we'd gotten beat up to all hell last year, we could have gotten ourselves to a Super Bowl. That's exactly what Amon-Ra St. Brown is saying. He's like, listen, the offense, didn't have its best game in that game against the Commanders. But ultimately, had we had a better defense by it actually being healthy, which everybody and their brother knows, who knows what conversation we could have had. That, I believe, is what Amon-Ra St. Brown is saying. And you can't deny that there is a sound logic to that argument. I mean, for crying out loud, when you have 16 starting players on IR from that defense throughout the course of an entire season, it's kind of a valid point. Because you have to imagine yourselves. Imagine what that defense would have looked like with Aiden Hutchinson paired with Zadarius Smith. You have to ask yourself how that defense would have looked if we'd have had all of our starting linebackers actually healthy throughout the entirety of the season. You have to ask yourself what that defense would have looked like had we had Carlton Davis on the field that night against the Commanders. These are all questions that we can't get answers to because they simply couldn't play. But if you get those guys back, and you can play them on the field against the Super Bowl defending champions, especially the Eagles offense, that offense that everybody's going to be talking about, along with the defense, now you've got yourself a matchup on both sides of the ball that everybody's going to be going crazy for. Because on the offensive side of the ball for the Eagles, everybody's going to be like, okay, we saw what this Eagles offense was able to do in the Super Bowl against Steve Spagnuolo's Chiefs defense, and they put up 40 damn points on them. Now, granted, actually, it wasn't 40 points. It was actually 34 because there was a pick six in there, but I digress. The point is, you have an Eagles offense that did exceedingly well against Steve Spagnuolo's defense. Now they're going to be asking, okay, well, how does that offense do against a healthy, yet very hungry, very determined Lions defense? It's a very good question. It's a very interesting question. But then you flip it on the opposite side of that coin. Okay, Eagles defense absolutely destroyed, just beat the ever-living tar out of the freaking Chiefs offense and Patrick Mahomes. Well, let's not call for... I know this is going to peeve off some people, but you now have that Eagles defense going up against a much deeper, much more talented Lions offense. Think about it. The Lions have receiver after receiver after receiver to potentially throw to. They have a young top 5 tight end. They have 2 of the best running back tandems in the NFL. They have a top 5 quarterback in Jared Goff. They have a very good offensive line. Some people want to debate if it's top 5, top 3 line. I don't give a damn. Point of the matter is it's a damn good offensive line. You now put that up against what the Eagles played in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs. You're talking about a completely different kettle of fish. That Chiefs offensive line could not protect Patrick Mahomes to save his life. Patrick Mahomes was quite literally throwing to an aged-up Travis Kelce, a aged-up DeAndre Hopkins, and on top of that, I'm sorry, but Isaiah Pacheco is no freaking Jahmyr Gibbs or Monty. So it's like, listen, you'd have a completely different dynamic of talent that Eagles defense would have to play against. Now, again, I also have to say this. The Eagles defense is going to be a little bit different for the upcoming season because of the fact that they've got a lot of defensive starters that are going to be going into the free agency pool this year. And again, the Eagles don't have a whole hell of a lot of cap space. I think they've got like $13 million of effective cap space. So they're going to have to come up with some real interesting answers to just try and get back some of the talent that they're going to potentially be losing. But my whole point is this. Amon-Ra St. Brown pretty much put it out there. Listen, we want to play the Eagles. We don't care. We want to prove to everybody in the NFL world and the rest of the world that we can play and we can beat these guys. Because up until you beat them, they're considered the best. They're considered the Super Bowl champs. That's what's going to happen. So pretty much what Amon-Ra St. Brown is saying is, yeah, we didn't end our season the way we wanted to last year. But give us the opportunity to start the season in 2025. We'll show you what could have been in 2024 had everything gone our way. That's in essence what this comes down to. But anyway, folks, I'm going to end this episode. I believe I've talked about it long enough. I believe I've gone over it as best I possibly can. So I'm going to say thank you all for watching in another episode of MCM Motor City Mania. If you like what you saw, by all means, I highly encourage y'all to watch the next episode. Also encourage y'all to do one of these three things: like, comment, and subscribe. If by chance you subscribed in the past and you forgot to do so at the time, I want to highly encourage y'all, please make sure you hit that bell notification icon so you guys never miss any more content that I push out. Also want to encourage y'all to share the content with your Lions friends and family members. Share here on YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Share anywhere and every way you possibly can, because the more we can do that, the greater the channel can grow and spread. And with that being said, to everybody, I hope you all enjoyed the content. Hope you all got something out of it. Whether this is your first time watching me, you guys have been watching me forever and a day, I hope you all that's really what you were able to do, was get something new out of it or just enjoy it overall. Also, hope everybody out there has something in their life that makes them happy, makes them smile. God bless, my friends. And until the next time we meet, I'll see you all in the next episode.